SANIBONANI, Mngadi, no. MOLWENI, SANIBONANI, Mngadi. How are you doing? Are you okay? Are you good? I hope you are. Today's guest is a friend of mine from university, and um, it's a very important episode. Please be so. Who it is? Firstly, today I will be having a conversation with Numpumelelo Nicholas Sinoguku. I can't pronounce. I forgot to pronounce. I forgot the surname. I'm so sorry. I forgot the surname, but I'll put it up for you. And they are a farm a commissar pharmacist, and or they will be a pharmacist quite soon. And we had a beautiful conversation. There was a lot of learning to be done, and it was just brilliant. I hope you have a beautiful time watching this episode. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the video. My name is Keisha Lee, and I'm your host for Take It All. Just gonna run through some like normal, usual stuff like who you are, what you do, and where in South Africa we can find you.
So basically, my name is Mpumelelo Nicholas Nic Mngadi. I am currently in Cape Town. I am a commercial pharmacist. Yeah. I am. I think, did I answer all the questions? That was a lot of questions.
Yeah, that was it. Thank you. That was good. Well done. So you are one of the guests in a series called the Queer Community Conversation. And I wanted to obviously shed light, bring awareness to this. And I also want you to share your story. So the questions that I sent you are to help us in our conversation slash your story, so that we can point out those things so that the listeners and viewers can know about them. Like your pronouns.
Yeah.
Could you tell me about maybe we should start by how you identify or how you came to use the pronouns that you use today?
So I don't like the term identify. It's like a weird thing but my relationship with gender is non-binary. And I identify, I guess, as pansexual or queer. My pronouns are mostly they, them. I use he, him pronouns occasionally and mostly specific people. Right now, it's just like my boyfriend and I experimenting with he, him pronouns and like people around me. She, her pronouns, no, not at all. Just thought I'd go through the whole list. But yeah, my pronouns are they, he.
So I spoke to Sharon Cox yesterday, luckily, about why pronouns are so important. And she said rather that it's the person's dignity. You aren't going to not going to take away, but she said something along the lines of, she said with me a story, and she said that this particular person said they took away their dignity. Like there was someone who wouldn't call her the pronouns that she was. And she said they took away my dignity. So can you tell me why they're so important to you?
For me, pronouns are important because whenever someone is misgendering you, they're basically telling you that you are lying. That whatever you are telling them, whatever is correct, whatever is right, you're basically lying. That has been the major thing for me. And it's like, are you calling me a liar? Why would you just call me a liar? Because that's what you're doing. So whenever someone would be like, she, because I find that the more masculine I present, the more people tend to want to remind me that I am still a she, whatever I may try to do. So whether it's saying like CC or, then I'm just like, no, don't do that. Don't. So I guess my relationship with my pronouns has been to let go of that state of like gender dysphoria where being constantly called like she. I do use she pronouns though. Not that I use them. Other people use them for me. right? And I allow them to do so because maybe I don't feel safe in that space. I feel if I were to say, hey, no, listen, or correct, or if someone tries to correct them, then I basically am putting myself in danger and like outing myself, if I can put it in that way. So if maybe a space is like that, or I found that like in professional spaces, I also have a very hard time. I try to be as, for example, like where I work, my name is respected 100%, but my pronouns, I just like, okay, I'm not fighting that battle. Everybody's just going to use my name. I'm just going to tell them to use my name. But they carry on using these incorrect pronouns and misgendering me. And I have to take it on a daily basis and just basically pick which battles to fight in that case, in living in a place like South Africa. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. So you mentioned about outing you. I want to talk about that. So, I mean, I've learned the term through the podcast, luckily, and I wish more and more people would incorporate this into their daily lives and society at large. The term letting in instead of coming out, because obviously the coming out, or the way Sharon described it yesterday, and just through what I've been reading and researching, the coming out process looks and is very traumatic. Like no heterosexual person had to think and gather their thoughts and say, I'm straight, or like, gather the family or friends and family and be afraid or fearful of losing these people because I'm coming out as straight. Nobody who's heterosexual has had to do that. But somehow those who fit that category have had to. And this term coming out that we use also as heterosexuals it's harmful. It's not so great. And I really, really love the term letting in, because it is your life. It is the world you live in. And I'm sure sometimes you are fearful of letting in people into that because you don't know if they're safe.
Yeah.
And then, so I think this
definitely.
Just amazing. How would you feel about using that term going forward?
I've never heard that term before, and when I heard it for the first time, I was so excited. I was telling my boyfriend, I'm just like, oh my god, I just love it so much, because I've had such a problem with the term coming out and what it represents and what it means to be queer in a society that's heteronormative, you know. So I guess with all of that. Sorry, what was the question? I got so absorbed by that feeling.
It's okay.
I got so absorbed by that feeling of like how to be respected, like people actually thinking of new language to accommodate the LGBTQI community. So it's a nice word. So I guess letting in people into my life, or into that aspect of my life, it was twofold, because with my sexuality, I didn't care. I didn't care who knew or who didn't know. It was whatever. I'm pansexual. So what? There's so many people who are pansexual out in this world. Because I had seen like pansexual representation, bisexual representation, people around me, and I've just been like, it's whatever, you know. But then when it came to me discovering or getting really in tune with like understanding myself and getting to know my gender and what it actually is, and the fact that I couldn't figure it out and just had a word for a relationship that I had with gender. And yeah. So when I figured out my gender, I figured I should tell people, because obviously people need to know that you've changed your name. You can't just sit and just be like, yeah, I've changed my name. Yeah. And then you just like allow people, because then also it messes with your psyche as well, because you are trying to like literally detach yourself from all those like false things that you've taken throughout your whole life, like from the time you were a kid, from the time, because when people ask me like when I came out as trans, I usually tell them that I'm like, when I was 7 years old, I told my mom, I'm like, I'm actually a boy. She wanted to dress me in a dress to go to church, and I was like, I am a boy. I don't know why you're dressing me in a dress. Not that clothes or anything mean gender, but to kids, those are like tangible sort of like markers that society has put on these like constructs. So I was like, I am a boy. You will not tell me otherwise. And then the gender policing and like all these things start coming through. And as a child, you resent, you think, okay, this must be terribly wrong to not, I'm not allowed to express it, or it you know, it's shied upon and not talked about, or talked about only in secret or in family meetings or whatever. So I think that point, my family has been the hardest people to let in that aspect. So the first time, by the way, the first time I let someone in besides myself, which I feel is the most important. Like, you need to let yourself in first. Like, you need to be the first person that goes through that door and sees that queer person and is like, I love you, no matter what like the world says, what society says, like comes through out of that. So yeah, so I it was my first time. I think it was like uni, like third year, like second year, I think. And I was like, yep, this is it. This is who I am. There's no denying it anymore or any longer, because I have no one to, because there was this like sense of freedom when you're at uni. And the first time I came out to someone, I wanted it to be like casual. Yeah, I wanted it to be like casual. So I came out at the back of an Uber. I just said, hey, listen, I'm non-binary and I use they, them pronouns now. And the person was just like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, cool. And then we just carried on the ride and just, and they just switched and used my pronouns just like that. And it was just amazing. So I think for me, it was just so casual. I just tried to make it as casual as possible. Even when I told my dad, I was just like, listen, he didn't even know what the word meant. So it was just like, I'm non-binary. Do you hear? And he's just like, okay. Just like telling people so that they are able to respect you, I guess, is the main point of letting people into your world. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, and mentioned earlier on, the queer community. What does it mean to you being part of this queer community? Because it's so, I don't want to, it's so diverse, it's very different. And also, what does it mean to you being a, sorry, obviously in African context, what does it mean to you being a Black queer person in the community? What does that mean to you?
Oh, wow. That's a that's a packed question, because it goes back to the fact that throughout like my whole existence, I had to exist as whether I knew it or not, I was still existing as a queer Black person. And that intersectionality brought through a sense of like being invalidated at every point of my life and at every way of trying to find an outlet or trying to come out of whatever I was going through. And it meant being rejected by a community, by a family, by your friends. It means navigating spaces that are not made for Black people, but also navigating spaces that are not meant for trans people. So this is like in institutions, universities, we're talking about like even the professional environment. It's still difficult to navigate, because even till this day, I feel like I still navigate as a Black woman. As much as I am not a Black woman, but I still navigate as a Black woman, because the intersectionality of my transness seems to be erased and be vanished, and it's just casted away. As maybe like a Western belief or an invalidation of my Africanness, that sort of thing. So I guess it goes hand in hand. What I've realized is that it goes hand in hand. Being Black and being trans for me and being queer goes hand in hand, because all the things that I am, my ancestors must have been. You know what I mean? So it is rooted in my Blackness that I found like the most or the greatest validation, I can put it in that way, by knowing that we didn't even have a gender construct in that way. You know what I mean? The gender that the gender constructs come in with patriarchy, with white supremacy, with all these other different things, and that's when all these issues are now building up, and you're finding that the main denominator, the main problem, is patriarchy. And in existence, we know who brought patriarchy. So,
Yes.
yeah. And I guess here's another point. It's like representation of transness in media, in mainstream media, or in conversations, or anywhere, is always white, androgynous looking, like a very, you know, white thing, and a very like white conversation that gets heard, and those are the voices that get heard. So when you're trying to now, for example, like here's an example. When I first got my binder, right, and I've always watched people, so binders are something that you use to like, yeah. So when I first put on my binder, I was so disappointed, because I'm just like, why don't I have like a super flat chest right now? I'm supposed to have a flat chest. And because I've watched so many videos of people who have like flatter breasts, like flatter busts, people who's just, and I'm just out here with just like, they're there. So there's no stopping that. You know what I mean? There's no stopping that. It's only the acceptance of myself, where I'm just like, I need to accept that. I need to accept myself. This is how it would be. And in order to be safe, in order to be this and that, and having to negotiate myself, you know what I mean? Because I'm navigating a space that was never meant for people like me, or a system or systems that were never meant for people like me. Yeah. I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, you aren't. It's good. We want to get your story out there. We want people who are
that's good.
You to resonate with what you're saying. We want them to say, "Oh my word, we've felt that and we've been through that." And it's shit because we're stuck in society where these progressions take so freaking slow. Like honestly, to me, I don't know why I have this passion for the queer community. I truly don't know why. I spoke yesterday to Sharon Cox, and last year in the sex education video with Dr. Ela, I literally cried because there are young people who ask me questions for the channel and whatnot, who are like 16, 15 in their homes, who have nowhere to go with their internal struggle. And it is the saddest thing that society suppresses these people and those creatives and those kind of people, and because they are different. And that is just so shit. Like we praise people who have freckles and red hair and all of these other things that are anatomical, but when it's something, oh, it just makes me so mad. I'm sorry. So okay.
I guess, we were speaking the other day, and we were speaking about the fact that, your existence as a queer person is from the time you are born, or when you have a sense of consciousness, or when you realize, or when the world realizes that you're queer, everything is set against you. You are an activist against the system, because you are a deviant. You are outside the norm. You are something to be corrected. You know what I mean? Your whole life is a possibility. You cannot erase me. I'm here. I'm alive. You can't say trans people don't exist. I'm like right here in front of you. So I guess it's both a blessing and a curse. Yeah. So
You spoke about the binder, and I don't know what that is. I'd like for you to expand, if possible, if you can, if you want to. You don't have to, on what that is, because in conjunction with yesterday, I found out that there is a waiting list in the public health sector for surgery for transgender people. 25 years that waiting list is. 25 freaking years.
yeah.
And I know we say that these resources, like, are progressive. What's the term in the Constitution? Progressive realization that these resources are being used upon and whatever. And I just thought 25 years. I don't know. Like, I'm not even sure if that is just the surgery. I wonder if the hormones are available. Is the hormones waiting list just as freaking long? Like, I
Whoa. There are a lot of issues. So I'm not. So for example, like for right now, because I'm currently only using my binder as a sense of like taking away that dysphoria or whatever. Um, so a binder is sort of like it's like a way to compress your chest in order to have a flatter look, in order to not feel a sense of discomfort in your body. So that is like now the dysphoria component. So yeah. And so the way that clothes fit on you, the way that you feel your own skin um, is alleviated, or is, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it gets better. It
mm,
gets better. The way you feel, you become harder in your eyes, especially the one person that it's important to. So
mm,
going back to like access to healthcare for trans people, that is a in South Africa, that's a whole different like conversation, talking about why is it that way. You know what I mean? That's because trans people are seen as not a priority, you know. um Whether it's transitioning using hormones, whether or surgery, but we both know that these things are important to trans people, because one, it's their health care, like it's their health right, firstly. Number
mhm.
two, we find that whenever trans people get the opportunity to transition in any way, in any form, or they get to express exactly who they are able to live longer. We know that there's an increased rate, a suicidal rate of trans folks, you know, because it does get to that point where you can't handle it, but you do not have access to these things. So your mental health is affected a great deal. Your mental health becomes, you know, something that you try to run away from, you know, and then it's just, it's troubling. It's troubling because even when you try to seek help and do all these things, it's still the system itself is even difficult. You know, I personally have not gone through the system, but in talking and conversing with people who've gone through the system, you find that you are on a waiting list for however long that you will be. When you finally get a chance, you get 2 or 3 chances. You need a psychologist, you need all these, like,
Yeah.
which are important in their capacity, but it also hinders people's access to these healthcare services that are essential for trans people.
I feel like that kind of invalidates
So
the whole process of saying, yes, we'll give you this. The waiting list is however long. But then when you finally get there, it's like, oh, you need proof of address. You need this. You need, how our government, unfortunately, is like, you need proof of,
yeah.
for wanting to go to the bathroom in a public place, you need proof of freaking address and your ID.
Yeah.
I feel like that.
Yo, that is anti-poor. We know how anti-poor most of these systems are, so
Yeah,
we're scared to go there.
it always.
We are scared to go there. We are scared to go there. But yeah, we are constantly reminded of the transphobia, of the transphobia and oppression systems that oppress trans people and queer people at large.
Yeah, it's upsetting. And you mentioned mental health, and that is the next question. How was your mental health in your? Can you give me like a lowdown of what happened, like from the time you started letting yourself in to letting others in? Like, how has the mental health been? Like, I know obviously there were definitely ups and downs. Can you take me through how that went?
I feel like I get your question, but it's sort of like more of a question of like before I let myself into, like after I let myself in. So it's like before there were certain things that I was facing that I did not know were in relation to my queerness or to my transness, because I was suppressing it so much. So the suppression was sort of causing this, like, you know, I can say swirlpool in my mind of who I really am. So that sense of like identity, that sense of confidence, that sense of self is dissolved because everybody else or society or people that you love near you are telling you this is wrong and this, but you like, but I am this and I'm existing and there's nothing that I can do about it no matter what I do. So um so in actual fact, when I started letting myself in is the moment when my mental health was a little bit better, because then I knew that who I am was not to be erased by people, and who I am was not going to be dictated by other people, whether it's religion, whether it's community, whether it's my friends, whether it's family, because I was strictly unhappy in the state that I was in, as pretending, and that burden of having to always cosplay as a person that I was not. And that burden leads you to a state where you're just tired physically, mentally, and you're just like, okay, whatever, I'm just, and you sort of let that go. And with taking off that burden, for me, my mental illness, my mental health life, you know, was a little bit better. But then the conversation of how now being queer and trans relates to my mental health is different, because then it comes into the question of mental illnesses, of which I do, you know, say dabble, of which I do have some. Okay. No, I was gonna say of which I do dabble, and I figured that was like a weird joke that some people would not appreciate. So I held back. But yeah, I, as a person who do suffers from some mental illnesses, I was like, I am trans and I am kind of sick now. And there are things that come, for example, like I spoke about dysphoria earlier. Dysphoria is something where it does affect your mental state because it affects the way that you see yourself. So are you able to take care of yourself when you're in that state? Are you able to be there for yourself? Are you able to function in a way that is beneficial to you and the people around you? Because that is what like mental health is basically about. It's about like taking care of yourself to ensure that you are healthy mentally. But if there are things keeping you from taking care of yourself, it could lead to now a disease state, which is now the mental illness that it may now trigger, I may say, the mental illness that you may have. So, or exacerbate it, so make it worse. So maybe I can say the dysphoria has been a part that made it worse, but having understanding it and having found solutions that work for me, because different things work for different people. So for me, a binder right now is kind of like safe and is the way that I can sort of ease myself into exploring what other options can they be eventually. I mean, top surgery is like how 80K, I don't know, like, so accessibility again.
Yeah,
So,
very true. Even for the like the reproductive episode, access to these things like even IVF, something like but even like other things, procedures that the hospital, like for instance, I read somewhere that the price for the government to pay for one individual to go for that thing, that the surgery that takes away whoa, English. um what do they call it when you take something that removes
what
fibroids?
are you taking? What are you
I'm
taking?
so sorry. Wow. The surgery to have fibroids removed, this is the word I was looking for, removed, is it's kind of expensive, but then also the waiting list therefore is quite long. So it's just, oh man, this perpetual progressive realization on the resources. But hey, 25-year waiting list.
I was reading something so interesting about actually sexual and reproductive health, about the fact that our system, or how our healthcare system has done reproductive health. And and I read that from apartheid time, like things like family planning were geared towards like population control in the Black community. So it was done like in isolation, and also for like poor individuals, so they don't populate and they don't, instead of a way for like healthcare, a right to healthcare. So when we switch to like now this new freedom, these systems are not like decolonized or like broken apart to say these systems are not built for Black people or poor people or trans people. We need to break them apart and build ones that do. So how, because we're not going to carry on working in the same ways, because that's how they say there's no resources, we can't, okay, how are we able to work with what we already have? But the thing is, the systems must already exist that support rights, human rights.
Yeah. It's like they aren't able to facilitate anything but keeping the population small. That's it.
Yep.
Hopefully, somebody will change all of that. Hopefully, inshallah. We hope.
Yeah, we are sensing a change in all fronts.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, funds, give us money, damn it. I wanted to ask you. So obviously, the whole process of letting in and all of those things, and being okay with just yourself, waking up thinking, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to have a good day because I am who I want to be, and I've arrived, and all of those things. So I want to ask you. That must have been a very hard process in itself. So during that, how important was a safe person or a safe space or a support group or one of the, like any of the above? How important was that during your journey?
Um, I mean, I guess fortunate enough. I was fortunate enough, sorry, to be at the time with in a relationship with someone who was trans. I don't know if that's outing someone. I'm so sorry if it is. And they were able to, like, we were able to have a conversation in that way. We were able to, how can I say, I was able to ask questions without really outing myself,
Mm-hmm.
and we related to each other in that way. Um, and then through them, I was able to meet like other trans people, like online, not based like face to face, but like online. So through that person, I was able to like meet different people who are trans, who
Mm-hmm.
are occupying spaces, who are Black, who are like doing things and are living out there. As much as they may not be like friends, but like social media was also like a really safe space for me. And internet at large was a really safe space for me of like learning and um, discovering and um, connecting with different people from different backgrounds was important, because I felt like in my daily life I could not like be tangibly, whether I was at that time in the closet, still like being on social media as like a different person, things like that, like connecting with different people, but like in my real life not being out, or whether it was the fact that I was out but I really had nobody to talk about in terms of like things that were bothering me or anything like that. So uh yeah, so I think now I'm thinking about this outing thing. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think it's bad.
I didn't give their name and stuff.
I
So
didn't mention the person's name.
yeah,
And
so
I've dated a lot of people, so you don't know who it is.
I
I've
definitely
dated a lot of people in my whole life.
yes.
So um sorry, just on my mind bugging me. So I feel like, really, I remember when I told my psychiatrist, I was like, listen, I am trans. Because for me, being trans was a bigger deal because I had to deal with internalized transphobia and all these other things that I had held and had told myself and had let everybody tell me. So I was just like, I told him, and he was like, go find friends who are trans, go out there and like explore and like talk to people and like communicate. And I was just so excited. And that's what I think I went out and did. I went and tried to find people who are like me, people who spoke the same language, people who validated me. So I closed off my space immediately because I'm like, whoever is not respecting my space does not deserve to be in my space. So whether that was friends or family or anyone who was not respectful of my space, except for like certain people I remember, but like that's a whole different conversation. But otherwise, of people you can cut off, you cut off. Of people you can set boundaries, you set boundaries, and you do all these things in order to like ensure your own sanity and your own sense of like well-being, because it is a self-harm to keep yourself close to people who are constantly bringing you down, or people who are telling you this and that and all these other things. So yeah.
Yes. So oh man, I want to change this question actually into, I'm sure already you've mentioned earlier on how people are not calling you with your correct pronouns and things. So I'm going to assume automatically that you have definitely faced prejudice and discrimination within the workplace, professionally, and maybe probably outside even more or just as much. What I do want to ask
Yeah.
you that
I
is
mean, it's like a precursor. It's like a precursor. You know, sometimes I never know whether I'm facing prejudice because I'm black, or is it because I'm trans, is it because I'm all of that
yeah.
combined, or is that people think I'm a black woman, or is just so it's just transphobia. So I never know what it could be that is triggering this response from that person.
Yeah, like a whole.
I think in the workplace,
Sorry, continue.
hey.
It's okay, continue.
So from that place, like in the workplace, I've sort of always been like, oh, in the workplace, I'm just so, why should I do that to myself? Why should I like let people in? They are not my friends. They are just colleagues. And then I realized it was actually bugging me that they were using this other name that I don't use anymore. It was bugging me that they are not even seeing me. It was bugging me a lot because I was here in this space and they were physically erasing me by the way that they were referring to me and the way that they were speaking to me. They were erasing me while I'm standing just here. So I figured, you know what? Let me just keep that out of my life. Let me not talk about that part of my life. Let me just, it went on for a while. I realized it's not for me. It's to constantly, yeah, because I needed to think about also other trans people who are going to come into the space.
Yeah.
How are they going to be treated? You know what I mean? It's about recognizing that we are a community, and I may be the first trans person that this person has ever met. I'm the first queer, well, not probably not the first queer person, but the first trans person that this person is interacting with, and they don't even know what to do because they are not sensitized into respecting other people, because society has told us to just degrade and dehumanize people. So I think, yeah. And then I guess another thing that happened, I think, was now like on a friendship basis and not necessarily on a work basis, was that a friend of mine that, you know, said to me like they wouldn't come to my wedding. This is when like I was like still figuring out my gender and I was like strictly queer, and I was like, I'm never gonna come to your wedding if you marry like someone, if you marry someone who's queer, if you marry into a queer relationship, I'm basically never gonna. And I was just like, what? I was so shocked and so like disgruntled, you know what I mean? And it was like, is this how other people see me? Because my friend was being honest with me, being like, this is what I believe, and this is what this is what I currently believe, and this is my standpoint. And I had to respect that because at least he was respecting me, but then other people are not respecting me. So I can imagine what they were saying. So it's like all those things going through your mind whenever you face these like little, you know, prejudices, little biases along the way, just like the little things, until you realize that these are small in comparison to what might actually happen. These are only slowly like palatable violences that are occurring, which lead to a bigger violence that we see, you know, people, you know. So basically people losing their lives. And in our society, I feel like queer people have taken charge in in the in society, have taken charge of their space and have taken charge of what is theirs. The LGBTQIA community has always been like, we're here and there's nothing you can do about it. We are taking up space. And this went on to organizing, educating people, and all of these things. And then it came to a point where people were beginning to now see queer people. Because this now was the first places that at first we had to convince people that we exist and that we are here. And there's absolutely nothing that they can do to get rid of us. You know what I mean? And then now it's like we started being seen, you know, which for me, the end point for queer people was we want to be respected, because that's now is the thing. We need to be respected. You can see me, you know, but that means now you're going to see me and smear me with a look, or look at me in a funny way when I'm holding a hand of someone of the same sex, you assume. So you're seeing me, but you are disgusted by me and showing it to me when it has everything to do with you and nothing to do with me. So respect me. I'm not asking for like acceptance or anything, just mere respect. Which I say mere, but like, you know how important respect is. So we see now people being accepting of certain queer people. You know, we see conversations with our friends change, you know, where our friends are just like, yo, listen, I was wrong, which is nice when you have that, when it's like, listen, I was wrong in this manner and I apologize. And same as family, you know what I mean? As soon as they're educated, they allow themselves to be educated, then they can be able to respect, you know, people in a manner that is humanizing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think like literally I think I don't want to say the aim of the game, but the aim of, I'm sure, every queer person is just to be treated as a human being with dignity. That's it. Like treat us treat us the way you would every other human being. Like we all bleed red when you cut us. There's like very
because we are human.
Exactly.
We are
Just keep us
human.
that. And I also want to add that our mutual friend has changed their mind concerning what Ale said earlier on. And
Yeah.
has been educated and has been
I know. They apologize.
and I'm so happy that they have been, you know, because obviously society is changing and changes, and there are new things that we see every day in the media, in the news, at home, whatever it is. So this is one example for me, that the fact that this person changed their mind after realizing that this person is still who they are. They just want to be them. That's it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm glad that this person was able to go and educate themselves, come back and say, hey, you know what? I was honest with you then, but now
I was wrong.
Be educated. I would gladly go to your wedding. And I'll be that person's plus one, hopefully. Inshallah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that is what it's about. You know, we thank people in the LGBTQI community who are taking up space, who are actually putting in the work. You know, there are people putting in the work out there for us. There are people who, you know, are navigating spaces that are filled with violence, you know, in order to make sure that the people who come after them, or the people that they're surrounded by, themselves can be liberated from whatever the system is trying to like oppress them in any type of way. So it's just they just keep pushing, you know, representation on television. They keep pushing for recognition of like gender affirming surgery and transition and all those things. They're pushing, and for people to actually have conversations, you know, and be like, who are these trans people we keep hearing about? Because I'm only discovering that some people have never met someone who is trans. Like, I had never met someone who is trans, you know what I mean? And if I had met someone who was trans years ago, I would have been like, that is me. And I like doesn't exist, you know what I mean? And I am just like here, and I should just embrace it, you know? I always talk about gay wasted years, because I wasted so many time in denial and wasted all those precious gay years.
Okay.
So yeah.
That is so cool. Wasted gay, wasted. So this will be like my second last question. So obviously we have one thing well, a few things in common, but we have one particular thing in common that shapes us and has molded us when we were younger.
Yeah.
Come from a church that is very, I don't know what to say, what to call it, but I want to know just quickly. It's a small answer.
I'm getting hot.
Religion.
I wrote a statement. Wait, I wrote a statement.
You did?
I
love it. Thank you. I'm so glad I sent these to you before time.
Okay.
So no, I just want to touch on it because I think it's important because religion informs our sex from day one. It literally does. It informs our sex, whether it be sex as in gender or sex as in penetration or no penetration. It informs us and it shapes us. So I want to know, unfortunately, because we have both gone through the same thingy matric, how has religion played a part in your letting in and like where you are right now? And how did it shape you back then? And what significance does it play now, I guess, in like having gone through all of that stuff to where you are right now?
Yeah. Hello. We came from yeah. I guess you're like indoctrinated from when you're like a kid. I don't know how to speak about this. I'm so nervous.
It's okay.
So yeah, that's the one thing that we have in common. So as I said, like when I came out to my mom freaked out and was like, nope, and no way my child is gay, because that's the first thing that like most of our parents probably think. Took me to church and was like, this one, I don't know what's going on. The elders in the church are like, no, listen, what you must do is only like you need to police this person's gender. They are not allowed to wear pants. They are not allowed to have certain toys. They are not allowed to wear certain colors and certain. You need to convince this person that they are a girl. You need to do everything in your power. And that's basically what my mom has tried to do, you know, which like I love her so much. It's just, yeah. But she tried, you know, for me through like indoctrination of the church as well, and all of these things. And also like wanting, because there was a time in my life where I was very religious, like religious. It was actually quite scary. And at that moment, I had just been like, I suppressed it to the bottom because I was just like, you need to let go of like your desires and you need to just let that go because that's not going to benefit you in life, you know, because that's what you're basically taught. And there's no life. The only life is here. And this is and that's what I did. And excuse me, it wasn't until I got to university and I started having like a little drops of freedom that sort of like unshackled me from that thinking. And as I was sort of unraveling, there was just always information around me. And then I learned, there's okay, all right, oh, okay, oh, they might have been wrong. What? No way. And then it's like doing all of those things. The greatest part that my religion suppressed or invalidated was my sexuality. Heavily taught that you pray so much that you don't feel these desires. but you don't feel this way. I remember I used to watch like a lot of like spoken word poetry, like that slam poetry, and I once came across this girl who was like a Christian slam poet, and she used to just be like, I was once like lesbian and now I'm like straight, and like God just doesn't want you to be like lesbian. And I was just sitting there just like listening to her poetry and just like, yes, like I'm here, I'm praying, that means it can happen to me, and like groveling and praying and grieving and shaming and regretting like how you feel. And you like, I really wish I didn't feel this way. I really wish I wasn't acting this way. I really wish like, and you really are praying that this get removed on you, because at that moment it feels like a burden that society is just like trying to make you feel bad for. So I could say it shaped exactly the way that I related to myself and who I thought I was, and who I thought I wanted to be. But now I'm at a totally different point in my life. And yeah, we live and we learn the experience of life, right?
Yeah, we do. So, my very last question: what can we do as society to be a better ally for the queer community?
Ooh. I wrote these down. I wrote these down because I don't want to mess them up, because they are very, very important. Because I think I once read something that is a true revolution does not have an ally. Like it does, like if by that it means you must be an ally for the community. As in like everything must fall. So even the people you hang around with, don't be, how can I say, be a safe space for homophobia and transphobia only because you are straight and have that privilege to be straight. Use your respect. I think respect is a big thing, and I'm going to keep emphasizing it and emphasizing it, because you need to respect people's pronouns, respect people's identities, respect people's well-being, and just respect, and ask, 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 like Musa, ask the people around you, ask those who are close to you, ask those who are willing to educate and who are willing to, because not every queer person or trans person is willing to educate about their identity and about themselves, or are willing to open up. Stop asking intrusive questions, but also encourage other people to not ask intrusive questions. If you want to educate yourself or other people, always amplify the voices of queer people or people within the LGBTQIA community, because they are the ones that you need to be listening to. And not every person is going to be the same. So don't take this person and be like, now I know every queer person that exists in the spectrum. But yeah, I think, yeah, listen, that is another one. Yeah, that is all. So respect, ask, listen, guys, listen. I think that's how to be like a great ally. You know what I mean? Because you're getting a chance to hear and experience from the person and empathize with them or sympathize with them and be like, I understand. Hence, I am here being part of your movement in allyship. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I like that. I will try and put it up and make hashtags that go with that. I think that's really good, actually. I also just want to say that I have recently become more aware of accepting and trying, well, obviously understanding, yes, but you can only understand so much. You can't comprehend someone's whole life story, someone's whole journey. You can't do that, but you can accept, and you can accept that their story is different from yours. They may be different from you, but we still bleed red when they cut when they cut each other open. And so yeah, accepting over understanding, but also being considerate to what you're taking in. The person is opening up to you, so that is also already important on its own. So yeah, be a safe.
Yeah, because I think, sorry,
No,
because I think like sometimes cishet people tend to like give each other information about queer people, so they're like passing on information instead of, and then maybe end up passing the incorrect information, and then you're in a situation where you're disrespecting or invalidating someone, where you could have taken maybe material of queer people who are willing to be like, hey, this is it, this is the information that I'm willing to share and educate on.
Thank you very much, Nick. I love this. Thank you very much for your time, and I cannot wait for people to see this so that they are informed and can respect and listen to people as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This is great conversation. Great conversation. I said a lot, which is good according, because it's, yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. And thank you for trusting me with all of this. I mean, that is very important to be able to speak and create that safe space. So thank you very much for joining me. I